If you are currently leveling up your Django and Postgres skills with this tutorial, you might like to know that this tutorial is part of a whole playlist where you will learn how to, with Django and Postgres, create database level constraints and triggers. If you like this playlist and you would like to learn more about Django ORM, then do check out our Django ORM Mastery course on Udemy. Links to the playlist and course can be found in the video description. Next up, let's go ahead and build a constraint for the slug field. Within our category model, if you remember, Django supplies a custom field type for a slug, and that allows us to ensure that anytime we insert data into that field, when we're utilizing, for example, the Django admin site, that it complies to a URL string. And of course, URL strings can't have special characters and other. In Django, we have a specific field type for slugs. Now remember, the slug field is used to store URL-friendly versions of a string, typically used for generating SEO-friendly URLs. And of course, here we cannot include, for example, special characters, because some special characters can't be used in the URL string. So if we were to, for example, insert data into the category table using Django, for example, it's going to make sure that before we insert that string doesn't contain any spaces, special characters that cannot cause issues in the web address. Now that's all done at the application layer. In the database, PostgreSQL doesn't actually have a specific field for slugs. So what will happen through the process of migrating this field to the database is this will just become a character field with a max length of 120. So we're going to create a database level validation, which is going to check the slug field text that's being inserted into the category table and ensure that the text meets the expectation for that field, which is going to be lowercase a to z and 0 to 9 or an underscore. So those are the only characters that should be utilized in the string that's being inserted into the slug field. So we're going to make sure that is the case by creating this check constraint. And of course, if the string that we try to insert doesn't meet this expectation, then we won't be able to insert that into the database. Right, so let's get back into our migration file. So we have already two checks, or one check, one trigger. So what we can do is copy the first check, and we call this something slightly different. So inventory category check, and then we call this slug format. So that's what we're going to call this constraint, and then we just need to change the check. So simply put, we want to utilize the slug or check the slug field. So use the title. So specifically, we're using the title operator. So in PostgreSQL, this is used for pattern matching of regular expressions. Okay, so we're going to encapsulate that in singles, and then we're going to first of all assert the start of the string by using, where are we? The keyboard, using the arrow up or the top hat. You might call it the caret or the circumflex. So here we're using a regular expression pattern. So we want to match essentially the slug data to whatever we define here. So we're saying A to Z, that should be allowed. 0 to 9, that should also be allowed. And also the underscore or dash. We want to make sure that this isn't empty, so we can, after that, use the plus to indicate that something should appear, one of these things should appear at least once, or one or more times, and then we can finish that off with the dollar, which is going to assert the fact that this is the end of the string. What we can also do is run an AND, so we can also make sure that it is lowercase or we can convert it into lower if we need to, equals slug. Right, and there we go. So let's add a semicolon there at the end. That should be everything that we need. So with that in mind, let's just go through the process again. Just going to delete the existing table, migrate, and test this out. So back in add minor, inventory DB, I'll go ahead and copy this, drop that. Okay. Create database. Add the database back in. Let's go ahead and migrate. If you've been following along, it should be the last command, migrate. So if there were any problems like we had last time, it should potentially be indicated there. It looks like everything is fine. If you do have any issues, then do check out the source code. Just match it against the source code provided. So I'm just going to refresh here. Let's go to the category table. Let's see if we can add a new item now. So let's go for the name. Let's put it in capitals to check to make sure that still works. The slug. So I'm going to try and include some special characters and then level, see if that works. And there we go. So you can see that we have the inventory category check slug format. So it is that is causing a problem. Let's just remove these special characters. Let's press save. Still looks like we have a problem because remember we can't use uppercase. Remember we've only defined A to Z lowercase. So let's do that, press save, and we're good to go. If we move back into the code, just thinking about what we've just said, we don't actually need this code to check if it's lowercase because it can only be lowercase because we have defined here that the text should be characters A to Z, lowercase. So we can actually remove this code right here, but it just shows you the fact that you can extend this with other code, other checks if you would like to. But there we go. So that's going to be the final code.